Exciting news. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me today. Uh, one question that I want to start off with is why is the internet changing?
Well, I'm already 40 years old, and I remember when internet was slow. So uh, basically, it was text first, and then when it came a little bit more rapid, pictures came along. And when you had pictures on the website, it came like kind of a row by row, the pixel by pixel. And now, when the internet bandwidth has increased, the next step is quite natural. It's video. So first, YouTube back in the day came, the vertical landscape form videos came, but that was on desktop because desktops had a fast internet bandwidth. But now 4G is like 98% coverage of the world's population. So we are starting to watch videos increasingly on mobile phones. And actually, like if you look at the average person, some stats, how much we spend time-consuming videos, for instance, on social media platforms, is like over 60% already. So that I think is the fundamental shift in uh, the internet. How we consume information these days online has been transferred to video, and the kind of a mega trend or the technological driver behind that is the internet bandwidth. And hey, we have this super sharp HD screen right in our pockets. So those are the fundamentals.
Okay, yeah, that kind of makes a lot of sense how we're shifting. I'm very curious as to see how was it that you were able to identify that shift to start a video bot. Can you tell me a little bit more? I mean, what was it? Uh, what is it that video bot, in your own words? What is it trying to solve?
Yeah, so 22, somewhere around 22 spring, we noticed that exactly this shift that, hey, you look all around and people are glued to their mobile phone. What are they doing? Most likely they're watching videos there. Every marketing guy knows that video converts better, whether it's their organic social content or paid ads. They use video there to drive traffic to their website. But what happens when you go onto the website? And this was the key revelation. They're still static. They are basically like they were 20, 25 years ago, already during the dot-com era. They're text and pictures. So it's kind of the user experience is this legacy user experience. And we kind of find out it's because we are used to it. And somebody had just overlooked the fact that the tools out there weren't really working in this kind of the new world. So our hypothesis was that, okay, what if we bring this short form video, vertical video that we are already consuming, everybody is consuming, to their own channels of companies, so their websites and apps, in a way that they bring results. So what we did was we combined another kind of innovation, maybe the only innovation in a long time on the user interface that has happened in the past or since the dot-com was this chatbot. So we combined the chatbot functionalities with the short form videos. So I jokingly sometimes say that, hey, Instagram stories and chatbot got married and had a child, and that's video. So that was basically our first product. And what it does is it brings all these interactive elements, all these CTA buttons directly into the video. So when you swipe around and watch these short form videos, if you're not interested in something, you swipe to the next. But if you want them to do something, the thing that the thing is directly in the video flow instead of CTA button, call to action button somewhere else on the website. So that's quite powerful approach, and it's a more user friendly approach. I would claim.
Yeah, it does sort of seem to solve a lot of the problems of consumers whenever they're looking for a product or whenever they're looking for a service. What does that mean for traditional ways of marketing? I mean, uh, is this somehow an SEO killer?
SEO is a large complex. It's evolving currently, so that's kind of another type of a question. But what does it mean to marketing team? I could tackle that first, and then talk about the SEO part. But what it does to traditional marketing is basically that if I tell you a story of when I started and I was hiring my first marketing team when I got to be a marketing manager. Uh, the basic skills in any marketing team, like the creative skills, were copywriting and graphic design. And and
Hmm.
and what has changed and what this means today is that it includes or it almost replaces some of these creative people. Is you need to have video marketing expertise in your marketing team. So basic understanding of video editing tools and how these short form videos work. Uh, they need to be snappy and you need to have a hook in the beginning, and they don't need to be so high production value. So many marketing
Mm,
decision makers who we talk to are still living in this old world that they have the copywriter and graphic design in house, but they don't have the video guy in house. And they think that this video is somehow really expensive specialized skill that you need,
mm,
10, 20, 50,000, whatever production budget for a single video. So they are thinking still like branded videos, like one long form, 2 minute, 3 minute brand videos that is, you show in the beginning of when the CEO is having a keynote somewhere. So surprisingly, many are still thinking these ways, especially from the old guard marketing directors. But that's the biggest change, and they don't realize that. Hey, if you look around, these video skills are abundant. There are like legions of these young, very dynamic, like influencers who are making their own TikToks and Instagrams and stuff like that, and they would love to get a proper job, doing the same thing that they are doing as a hobby. For example, they are just brilliant people who can do magic with this iPhone and some basic editing tools already, like CapCut, freemium models, and such. So that is the biggest kind of shift I think people need to understand. Video production
mm,
is a core skill in any marketing team nowadays. If I would need to choose, for example, graphic design, video editor, or copywriter, I might even kick the copywriter out because the LLM models nowadays are so good that they can make like average copywriting material that then some human just checks out, but really have the skills in house. When it comes to the second part, the SEO part, uh, that is a complex question. We see a trend that SEO overall is declining because again of these LLM models, but it's not going away very soon. So there's a couple of things that has happened now. Uh, Firstly, basically this keyword-based spamming blog posts, churning them out type of SEO strategy has come to an end.
mm,
There was a huge news on in the marketing sphere when HubSpot, who was the poster child, who was basically dominating the first page of Google search for a long time, their uh, search result, SEO, they plummeted. Also, we saw it on our website. We did a lot of this kind of a SEO optimized, automatic AI assisted blogging that drove traffic for about a year, like
mm,
tremendously. But then that kind of a pathway came to an end because Google shut it down.
mm,
So what is now on the SEO more important is the value of the website. So this kind of a how much how much and what signals the value of the website? It's how much time people spend there, so the dwell time on the website, how much engagement there are. And video is actually quite good, and especially video about, because we focus on the short form interactive part, people are interacting and spending just more time on the website, which then signals to Google that this is great content. Also with us, you can do meta description and this kind of a basic SEO stuff as well. But I don't want to go too much into the product pitching. This is a podcast, but you can do that. But what is now, like, what is the next phase of SEO? Like, for example, if I kind of reflect on my own behavior, I usually actually now start the search with ChatGTP. Uh,
Mhm.
uh, so these LLM models. So what SEO now needs to take account, or the content what you are doing, it's not necessarily your own website. It can be about your company and product all around the internet. So let's say a review website. So G2s and these type of these are the places, or discussion forums, Reddits
Mhm.
and stuff like that, where the LLMs pull all the information to try to understand. Let's say I asked ChatGTP, what is the best video software out there or marketing tool out there for this specific purpose? It doesn't only pull the information on your own website. It pulls from multiple sources. So it comes a more you need. There's this kind of a, uh new term of, or new concept of that you do the SEO or for these generative models rather than Google. So I think Google is in large trouble if it doesn't like somehow switch its business model.
Hmm. Yeah, so in essence, I mean, I'm just kind of wondering, as these shifts are starting to happen and we see that companies are sort of sticking to the old ways of operating in terms of marketing or even in terms of sales, I'm just wondering, what does it mean also for universities and companies that are there still, I mean, from personal experience, I can speak that some of the marketing practices that universities are teaching are very outdated. So what does it what does it mean for universities who need to sort of stay on top of the game and sort of updated to be able to produce talent for the workforce so that they can help businesses thrive? Are you doing any kind of cooperation with other companies to sort of spread the knowledge about the changings in technology so that, well, if I think of Finland, so that we can thrive as a society and as an economic power?
That's a good question. I actually, before I switched to private side after graduation, I kind of thought I would become like this kind of a researcher or something. Like I was kind of in the academic world. I used to lecture and teach at universities in Finland and abroad. And uh, I was also in these projects that were about education development and exactly
Mhm.
like looking at different platforms, how to educate remotely, for example. So these digital education platforms. So I have some insights on them. But firstly, I would say like universities, if we think of traditional science-based universities, their task is not necessarily, or their like how if you ask a professor what's your kind of what are you doing? It's creating new knowledge, and
Mhm.
and they are geared towards uh, educating basically scientists, whatever that is. So that's like there's one aspect of it, and I think uh, it is really, really, really important. Universities give you skills to kind of look critically at problems and form hypotheses and test them. So that kind of a core skill is valid in any business as well. Well, when it comes to really tactical level, what should I do in business? I don't think it's the job of a university, at least a
Mhm.
traditional science-based university. In Finland, we have this applied sciences university, also, or ammattikorkeakoulu in Finnish, which mimics really this German type of a university system as well. So their job is to be more tangible, to churn actually or produce uh, almost ready employees to the world, so
Hmm.
engineers and this kind of people. But even there, the technology and the nitty-gritty of companies, the daily life, I think it's so rapidly going forward that uh, it's just like teaching the basic stuff
Hmm.
of critical thinking, that fundamental toolkits. Uh, you kind of educate your brain to think rather than educate on a particular subject matter. Educate your to frameworks of how to dissect different kind of problems and how to like approach the problems. So not necessarily the very tangible stuff. Um, but like that is a hard question, and I cannot say I'm in any way expert on that, at least anymore. That was like 15 years ago, nearly 2 decades ago, when I was working at the universities. But like personally, when I hire people nowadays, I don't
Hmm.
even look at the where they studied. I don't
Hmm.
care do they have a degree or not. It
What do
doesn't
you care
matter.
for?
Experience. What did you do? Uh, And if you're really junior in your career, let's say I'm heading our product development, you're an engineer. I want to see some hobby project. I want to see something that you made. If you're in marketing, I want to see your TikTok account. I want to see your podcast. If I like sales roles, I want to see that during the studies or earlier you were in telemarketing in a boiler room cold calling all day. I want to see that. That proves me you have the tenacity to get no million times a day and still churn on. I don't need the sales guy straight out of university with a fancy MBA or
Mm.
bachelor's in business administration if they don't have any sales experience. Uh, I rather take the guy or a girl who was in a boiler room selling newspaper subscriptions during summers. I want to see that. Uh,
Hmm. Do you think that's the same, or do you think if companies could apply sort of the same methodology that you're applying, perhaps they could be more successful? I mean, the reason why I say this is because I mean I've been following along the success of VideoBot. You know, I've seen the moment that you reached 1 million. You know, in recent news, you got some new funding. So obviously, you're doing things the right way. So that's got to tell something to other companies and to other leaders as to, okay, why don't we start paying attention to the companies that are being successful at raising capital, at achieving, you know, certain levels of returns, and maybe mimic those strategies. Uh, would you say that? Would that be fair to say? I mean, if more companies could do what you're doing, would they be more successful?
I need to. I think we need to divide the companies firstly to established companies and startup scale-up companies. I've done my career in a scale-up startup environment. So
Hmm.
basically, my background is after the academic world is that something was coded, so it's something tech.
Yeah.
This something that is tech needs to be sold outside of Finland, so international, and this something that is we are trying to sell internationally has gathered millions of euros at least. So this is like kind of my career and my jam. Uh, then established companies are a little bit a different ball game. Established
Yeah.
companies they want to mitigate a lot of risks, but they also like they have their core businesses. They can make some tests out there, but they are more concerned about will this be successful at a what hit rate, kind of a little bit too much. Let's say
Yeah.
like Google has all kinds of like this kind of a argument that what if Google does it or Amazon does it? Does it kill your startup? Amazon's and Google's were a startup at one point, but they are no
Yeah.
longer. So there's this huge machinery that there's so many decision makers, there's bureaucracy, there's budgets being killed, that even if they, yes, de facto skills wise could do it, it just can be killed. And the success isn't really guaranteed either. Imagine like Facebook came and Google tried to have a social media platform of their own, Google Plus. It didn't go anywhere because it wasn't
Yeah.
their core. It wasn't their core thing. But for Facebook, the whole social media was, this is us. We do this. For Google, it was a side project. So kind of smaller companies, startup scale-ups, they can concentrate, really focus, having a radical focus on one core thing and take big bets and risk there. Large companies don't really do that. So replicating is, though, like, yes, you can replicate, and that's it was trendy at one point to, like, I even did this myself, like at one point as a consultant I sold this type of, like, how what can large enterprises learn from small startup kind of a mentality,
Mm.
and there is a kind of a case in point in that, but I think they are, in the end, they're a little bit different animals, and having the top decision makers in the company giving consent to that kind of a mental thinking, like lean startup thinking, is really, really important to have the buy-in. If the initiative comes from some mid-level manager or director or a VP of certain uh, like business line, I don't think it's enough buy-in. So if you really want this kind of a startup-y, lean startup approach, like corporate venture type of approach in your company, you need a really, really C-level buy-in on it. It needs to be
Mm.
baked in the strategy. Otherwise, it gets killed so often. Then,
I wonder how much of the success is about understanding when is the right timing. I mean, I don't know if you remember back in the early 2000s, whenever there was this app named Vine. It was like,
yeah,
yeah. So I mean, it seems to me that they were way ahead of their time because it's pretty much almost very similar as TikTok, but yet it didn't take off. Perhaps because Instagram was taking so much of the market share, but then TikTok seems to just come up at the right time. Were you able to also identify that it's the right time to do video bot?
yeah, exactly. Timing is everything in business. Are you too late or too early? Uh, I would rather be so-called too late than too early.
Hmm.
Too early is like, there can be unforeseen things that you didn't just anticipate.
Hmm.
If you are so-called too late, so there are already products out there that are in the same space, they validate at least that there is demand for this product.
Hmm.
I think VideoBot was just in time. Uh, uh, Correct time, not too late, not too early. So I think that's very fundamental for our success. Let's say people wouldn't have been socialized to consuming videos yet in the same way they are today. I think we would have been too early. Let's say the internet bandwidth wouldn't be fast enough. We would be too early. Uh, for example, in the internet, but there's a very clear, like, user experience hurdle there. If whatever is on the website on an app takes more than 3 seconds, they just drop off. So uh, streaming the video, uh, not that long ago, you could have, like, let's say you're with your phone at a certain part of the town. Uh, it would have take more time to load the video. So it's about user experience. So I think now technologically and also the behavior of us, the end users. So we sell business to business, and so the end user, whoever is the client, they are socialized to consume the video content, and they actually demand they want to see more video content. It's out there. Like anecdotal is abundant about this behavioral shift and kind of that we are socialized to consume videos. You go to like Finnish tabloid magazine nowadays. It wasn't that long ago that they asked you to, hey, send a picture to us. Nowadays, send us a video. Like that's because that comes everywhere. And it wasn't like even 5 years ago, if you look back, it wasn't like that. And we are now 2.5 years, 3-year-old company soon. I claim it's the right time.
Yeah. As a COO, what is your day to day like? I mean, what's the biggest challenge that you're solving at this stage of growth?
Basically, the crust of COO is looking that the uh, every day goes as smoothly as possible. So if we think of kind of you could talk about the business as a business architecture. There are like two or three, depending, like you could say there are three layers. There are systems, which are like the technologies that you use. Then there are processes, so how we use these technologies, and then there are people. So that's my main job, to look at, we have the best tools uh, that bring the most value, uh, that we have integrated all these tools together. We have clear processes, how to use, like, let's say, between billing uh, and our contract management system, and our CS system is connected to our product, that the data flows there, and our customer success gets like alerts if something happens per account. Uh, so all of these kind of how these different systems inside the function verticals, how are they built together, that that it basically has like this interconnected whole architecture. Uh, so we have the right tools, we know how to use them, what are the processes, and then that we have the right people using those. So we have the skill sets in house. Uh, or if we don't have, do we need, let's say, a freelancer out there to help us that time to time? We recognize a bottleneck on the skills gap. I need to recognize that skills gap and then find a person to help us. Or we need to figure out how inside the company somebody learns that. So how we upskill somebody. So that's kind of the main thing, looking at from a bird's eye perspective, the whole machinery. And it's very important because that somebody looks over the whole picture.
Hmm.
Let's say, rather than on the function verticals, it's easy that the mid-level looks at their function only. So the
Hmm.
CS lead only wants to optimize the efficiency of the CS function,
Hmm.
and doesn't necessarily understand that if I do something here that helps my job and my team's job, it might have an effect somewhere else that actually, on an aggregate, makes the machinery less efficient. So uh, my job is to look at the whole picture, basically the whole machinery. That's but when it comes also the tangible parts, I do a lot of, like, we are still about 30 people company. I work a lot day in and day out with our largest client at the end of the deal. So negotiating different kinds of deals, like when it comes to the legal matters,
Hmm.
uh, uh, helping with the security reviews, IT reviews, and such things. And which is particular to our company, this is not necessarily in every startup, but I'm a nerd who never learned to code properly. So I'm doing a lot of things with the product team. So working with the engineering team to prioritize different features and functionalities, what we are thinking of doing that goes towards our vision where we want to be. Uh, so sucking in the feedback from the sales, from the customer support, success, what kind of features, functionalities do they, let's say, open a new market? Do they open new upsell potential on certain clients? Is this feature really particular to this client, or is it actually a wider thing that we could monetize and sell? And then bringing that understanding and know-how to the product team and kind of doing this kind of a impact effort optimization that, okay, which of these, all of these inputs that we get and how do we prioritize them? And also what is quite often lacking in this input effort maximization, kind of optimization, what is the kind of the odds of this actually working? So there's impact effort, but also how certain are we about that this will open the new, let's say, a new market or upsell potential. So doing kind of those kind of things.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, have you had a lot of surprise moments where you have seen the product that you're providing venture into market areas that you would never think of?
Yeah, one is like we like clearly is like what we didn't anticipate is like kind of being in the physical world, so to speak. So obviously it's always in the digital, but kind of bridging the digital and physical. So what we started with 2 years ago, we were starting basically selling a video-based chatbot to
Hmm.
websites. And what came quite naturally later on was that we went to apps as well. All right. Uh, so websites and apps, sure. Like, yeah. Uh, but now we have like basically you can have, or it's not only the video-based chatbot widget, we have all kinds of embedding options. So what we noticed that, like, let's say you have product package uh,
Hmm.
that there's a QR code, and they scan the QR code and it goes to some recipe landing page, like chop the onion on a food packaging, chop the onion and then, put some butter in and stuff like that. So there's a use case, for example, which was a huge use case. Atria is one of the biggest meat producer in Finland. They put these through QR codes, these interactive recipes on a video form behind the QR code. So this was like, okay, you can use it like that. So our clients are innovating. They put it on the shelf heads at the stores, like, hey, get the latest recipe tips here. They had it on TV ads. Uh, so this was the kind of one of the first use cases of this QR code implementation that bridges the physical and digital world. Now we have had it through QR codes, and we had what biggest uh, this kind of a live broadcast of a beneficiary. Uh, what do you call it? Donating for Children's Hospital? This kind of a
Yeah,
donate. What do you
like a
call it?
fundraiser.
Fundraiser, yeah, live concert on TV in Finland that had a QR code on the TV show, the live broadcast. And if you think about it, that's like you're watching TV on your sofa. What do? You have your phone here, yeah, like, and then you're like, scan there, click, and then it goes to a video flow that basically tells more about the project. Where do you donate? Shows the end clients that the donations are going, or the patients in this case. So very emotional. It skyrocketed the donations. They got more donations out of it. So this we didn't see, and now also like what is likely to become and has been already like touchscreen devices. So we have clients that have used touchscreen devices at, let's say, exhibitions. Uh, and we are now in the talks that they could be in showrooms, in physical brick and mortar stores. So this we didn't see, but it's quite natural because we built our tech stack so that you can put it in anywhere. But that was something, yeah, surprising indeed.
Hmm. Yeah, it sort of seems to me that there really isn't something where you can't apply it, right? It's just a matter of being creative and finding that thing that is going to, well, sort of that the novelty to the consumer, right, or to the user. That's very interesting. What are some of the? I mean, obviously, there's always a right way to doing things, and there's also like a wrong way. What are some of the? What do you think are some of the things that companies are getting wrong about the use of video?
Thinking videos in the old way, we a little bit touched upon the topic, but kind of this short form video, thinking it needs to have some kind of an arc of drama,
Hmm.
like that you kind of hang on to the value until the end and reveal it. No, actually vice versa, that you need to pitch the value right in the beginning. So it's little bit similar to as a clickbait headline. Uh,
Hmm.
so you know, I will tell you a secret to success. Uh, as a like a hook in the beginning. So that's quite often like people are like who are coming from this TikTok world, they start to understand it, but many people still like in the marketing teams who are not familiar with it get this wrong. They don't have a proper hook in the beginning, which I think it's the most, or I don't even think it is the most important of every video. And I would spend a little bit more time on the hook always. When you nail the hook right, what you actually the content of the video, you don't need to hone that so much, but hone
Hmm.
the hook. Think of what is the actually like something exciting, something that doesn't reveal too much, but gives some kind of a value. Hey, that if you watch this, you get some value out of the video. And then shut up when you told the value. So don't like start to blabber. So, for
Yeah.
example, this podcast, this long form, it's a different kind. Like we are having a dialogue here, but if it comes to this short form, make it snappy, have a decent hook, and just say one thing, and then
Yeah, couldn't agree more. So it kind of seems to me that perhaps some of the things that companies should be focusing on is developing the right techniques for storytelling, whether it's short, or especially short as they're going to be using your products, right? And could that be one of the things that they're not realizing just yet? I mean, it sort of seems that uh, maybe when they're hiring, they're focusing mainly on a few skills rather than the one thing that if somebody could develop, the other skills can just be learned within the company. For example, like if you have a great storyteller, you can teach them all the technical things of how to produce video, right?
absolutely. Let's say a great copywriter, if he or she is interested, she can become excellent video scripter. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, like I said, the hook in the beginning of the video is not so much different than the clickbait headline. So you can upskill them, definitely. But when it comes to storytelling, I think that is the most important skill of any company, or like kind of the task of any company to nail is the story. You with the great story, uh, you bring emotions. With the great story, you bring trust, and with the great story, you can separate yourself from the competition. And if we think humans, how we have evolved, we think of the world through stories.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's how we memorize things. That was the first information transfer method. Information technology. First information technology that we had was stories.
Yeah.
So we use, for example, poetry to memorize those. We use songs around the fire uh, when we were cavemen to transfer these stories from generation to generation. and that's actually like integral part of our evolution. When we started to became from monkeys to develop these vocal cords here, we immediately started to tell stories. You know, the stories then later on they transformed into religions, which were they transformed into nation states. They transferred all the around what we say and our stories. So that is the fundamentally the most important part. Stories have serious power to move companies forward, not to mention nations, but humanity forward. So I think it's when it comes to marketing, that's the essence, the storytelling. That's the core.
Yeah, and it kind of seems to me sometimes as well that perhaps some businesses or companies sort of rely, or maybe they don't understand the tacticality behind the usage of video. I mean, I've heard Alex Hormozy talk about this, that the whole purpose of short form video is to get them to long form video, and then if they can watch the long form video, then whatever product or service that you providing, hopefully they can build enough trust so that they can go on to the next step and purchase a product, right? So I guess in this case for video bot is, okay, if you can establish enough interest in the short form, that'll get them to your website to maybe find out a little bit more and perhaps feel obtain trust to move to the next forward to, hey, let's book a meeting with this company that's providing the service so that we can find out more as to how we can use it to our advantage, right?
Yeah. So how what does our data tell, for example, when you put
Yeah.
out the short form videos through VideoBot on your website? They spend more time on it. They spend more time with whatever you're selling. If you spend more time there, the information retention is greater. When the information retention is greater, you are more likely to recall the brand, let's say later on, 2 weeks from now, versus your competitor. Or if you want to quickly convert, because they spend more time there, and this is now the tactical layer, they are more likely to understand your value prop and then convert. But also conversely, like the other way around, if you don't want them to contact you, let's say it's a frequently asked questions part of your website, you don't want them to call to your customer support, to a human being that costs money, it's again the same. They spend more time with the video than reading long walls of text. And they
Hmm.
are, because they spend more time, they're more likely to understand the issue. We are visual beings. These two sensors what we have in our head, they're directly connected to our brains and take a hell of a lot of our brain capacity. We just process it so much quicker. Text is symbolic, that takes way more time. Text was a technology itself that was some thousands of years old only. But this kind of audiovisual information, it's actually like part of the core of our how we humans behave. Why we process it so fast is basically it was in the nature, the way that it, you know, is in the bush. That is something is rattling in the bush. Is a saber-toothed tiger that I need to run out of, or if I'm hunting, is there now the rabbit that is my next meal? So that's why we are super fast processing information visually, and it retains way better in our memory.
Yeah, and it sort of seems that it has that novelty effect whenever somebody goes into a website and sees something that they have never seen before. It would be interesting to see if there's any data or research on people's reaction or sort of people's reception of seeing like your product. For example, I mean, if we think of chatbots, I think nobody says, I really enjoy interacting with a chatbot, right? I think perhaps because we know it's a chatbot, so we know it's not human. So whenever we go into a page now and instead of a chatbot, we actually see a human being talking. So have you had comments from your clients to say, hey, you know what? Uh, I really feel like people feel that are receiving a more human touch of service when watching the video versus interacting with the machine because it sort of makes it feel like the machine doesn't understand me, right?
Yeah, so there. there was a study, Forrester made this kind of state of customer experience in 24, so last year. And they basically concluded that customer experience was at an all-time low.
Hmm.
Uh, and the reasons were lack of emotional connection with the brand and the overwhelming use of chatbots. So these text-based chatbots. And this is quite understandable. This is exactly your point. Like chatbots are impersonal. But why are we doing them still, and why chatbots are popular? Well, companies always need to balance with efficiency
Hmm.
and the kind of the customer experience part. So chatbots are extremely efficient. So on short term, you can, let's say, replace your 50% of your customer support with the chatbot. So it's extremely efficient. You get short-term wins to optimize in this kind of, we live in a quarterly economy. People need to bring results, especially publicly listed companies. They need to have really, really rapid short-term gains. But on the other like kind of balance that needs to be always balanced is this long-term thing that is like the brand perception, the customer experience, and that's actually the emotional connection. Like think of brands that are really like we have large emotions with. I think Apple did a great job with it, and
Hmm.
like so I think what VideoBot does is it strikes a balance with this. It's still a highly efficient. It's not as efficient, obviously, like as the text-based chatbot, because you need to produce the video content there and put a little bit more effort. But once you have done that start and kind of brought that international video interactive video experience kind of in your core and in your strategy, you have the right skill set. It does come highly efficient over time, and it brings up that customer experience, that emotional connection. That was one of the reasons behind the Forrester study, why customer experiences has plummeted. And who will win, I claim, who will win out of two identical companies that are on the market? The one that has superior customer experience, or at least feels like it has a superior customer experience. Why? Because the mode to actually churn features and technologies and this type of stuff, it's reducing. With the help of these LLM coding assistants, for example, a very, very small team can now develop products very fast. So the technological moat is shrinking that any company has. So what comes then important is actually like understanding the client, understanding the customer, really serving them well, and having emotional connection. And it's a lot about also like the branding part.
Hmm.
So I think that there is a demand, and our success is basically demonstrates that we were right on this. There is a huge demand for efficient solutions that still bring higher level of customer experience and kind of emotional connection.
Hmm. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Uh, I mean, we've been talking a little bit about the LLMs. I'm wondering,
Yes.
as the use of AI in video production is getting better and better and better, how does VideoBot plan to integrate those things, or am I getting ahead?
How would I answer to these questions? Yes, absolutely. We are developing these kind of features and functionalities and see when the products are or the kind of models are mature enough to be released to the market. At the moment, at this like today, and this can change really rapidly. But today, it's still the AI generated video is, yes, again, it's the balance between the efficiency and the customer experience.
Hmm.
It it's not sufficiently real enough
Hmm.
uh, to most cases,
Yeah.
like 99% of the cases, to replace the original video, because then you basically are back into the why not even just use the text-based chatbot, because you can
Hmm.
immediately see some, there's a robot speaking. Mm, so there's this uncanny valley. But that being said, yeah, very soon, very, very soon, we are mature enough. So I think when we are mature enough technology-wise to produce AI video that you really cannot recognize, uh, uh, of course, you will start to generate video content through that, of course. And we are developing these features. We are researching these features constantly, and I make sure of it, and we make sure of it that we are the first ones that will ship those functionalities to the market when they actually bring value. So
Yeah.
now those are a little bit like if you would release those type of features, functionalities now, I think it's more of a party trick. I mean,
Yeah.
it's something like this is just a cool thing, but it actually wouldn't bring value. We have some early research on that done. So that's not like there are use cases that it can work, like let's say internal training material, like
Hmm.
having a like, inserting a PDF there, and but this kind of what we are concentrating is like to the outside world, mainly towards marketing people that your end clients see, and the argument there is this emotional connection. So that's why we don't feel like we would be doing a disservice to our clients to claim that this will solve your problems, because actually the problem is the customer experience. The problem is the emotional connection that we are fixing here. That's why we don't ship that. That's why we don't recommend you doing that yet for the customer facing communications that you do on your websites and apps.
Yeah. It kind of seems that at some point it'll be kind of inevitable not to venture into that, right? Uh, with the whole AI thing, as it continues to develop, I mean, we have seen now here in Europe some changes in the regulations. How do you how do you see the AI Act that the European Union has imposed in relation with innovation and startups, companies like yours on this side of the world? Is it a is it a crutch? I mean, is it something that is going to impede companies like yours to flourish or future ones? How do you see that?
We are shooting ourselves in the leg here. Uh, the response to any problem of the European Union seems to be regulated.
Hmm.
While this is oversimplification, but we would basically need less regulation, not more regulation. And we are competing against other like uh, geo geographies, powerful geographies that are letting their tech companies to boom. And there's why we are over-regulating. It's kind of I think there is a problem with the influence of Germany here, with its kind of it's a cliche thing to say that
Hmm.
Germans like regulation, but you can see it from, for example, in the GDPR. Uh, they interpret the GDPR in their local legislation way harder than the actual directive says. So they have kind of an upper hand in this of like, let's regulate everything. We are totally fragmented of small nations all over. We have the language barriers here. If we are in such a disadvantage in Europe compared to the States. Already in our this goes a little bit over the regulation, but why I say this is that because we are already fragmented, for example, through languages. If we think ourselves, we need to hire people with local language expertise, native level, always per market.
Yeah.
Like we already have that kind of a hurdle here. Uh, then we have a hurdle of like understanding the GDPR requirements when it comes to marketing technology in each every country. Then we have like if we need to establish a daughter company there, then we have the hurdles of that. We have hurdles of how stock options for employees are handled in different countries for taxation purposes. We have so many hurdles here already. Why are we creating another hurdle for a new type of amazing technology that's gonna change the whole humanity and the society? We are like at the brink of the similar revolution, unless bigger revolution that the industrial revolution was. This will be like in the long run totally game changer. I mean like I'm a large science fiction nerd. This will make us like the interstellar
Yeah.
galactic species. So uh we are living in such amazing time. So why is our response to this? We could like for once be like somehow okay, let's fly with it. Like let's pool our forces and let our tech companies flourish and compete on the really on the international arenas. It should probably end up now because of the regulation that we are using them, then US or God forsake Chinese LLMs. Uh, it was really purposeful that the DeepSeek came how it came as an open source. It's like now putting a wedge uh, to the tech development, AI development of European companies. Because why now in this complex regulatory environment, I would start to develop something on my own because there's open source software out there. Then, like for a smaller companies, like let's say a small startup that would like to start LLM development, it's yet another bureaucratic process that you need to put research into. Because in the very beginning, there's only two things that you should care about: it's selling and building the product. And then now, because of this, there's another thing that you need to you soon you need an in-house lawyer in every tech company. I mean, like, how much does it cost for you to be GDPR compliant and AI compliant for every? Like, it's I'm 200,000 euros per year. I mean, like, you cannot. This is hindering. Like, I think it's ridiculous. Our kind of a core reaction to everything is to regulate, and I think it's because of the unfair or unbalanced power that Germany has within the EU decision making, and they just love regulation, and now we are over regulating everything.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You know, I've seen quite a lot of times now that meme on LinkedIn. I'm pretty sure you have seen it, which is it shows, hey, you know, while the U.S. and China are catching rockets and building these AI models, here in Europe, we're very proud of the bottle cap that doesn't fall out the bottle.
Yeah, we are too
What
much concentrating on the risks constantly. We are too much concentrating on the risks. Like, uh, let's concentrate on the opportunities.
from an individualistic level, what's our responsibility
In responsibility in terms of what?
in terms of dealing with these kinds of regulations? I mean, what can we do at an individual level to navigate this or to prevent this from happening? Is there something that we can do?
Well, I think we live in democracies, but democracies are really slow. So, but that's also the reason why democracies have been so successful compared to other types of regimes is that we are stable. So everything takes slower pace. So, but individual level, if we take any day, like the average Joe out there is to vote candidates in elections that are pro enterprise, pro kind of understanding technologies and kind of where we are. but that's on that levels of abstraction that's kind of that's easy to say, and that doesn't. But like, but it also means that yes, we need to bring our voice to the decision makers more. Uh, uh, we we need lobbying for sure. Some people think lobbying is a dirty word, but it is essentially, hey, come on, what are you doing here? Uh, we are we are falling behind of everything. It's so like I'm sometimes thinking like, gosh, like during the Soviet Union, let's say, individual living there, they all of a sudden go to Europe or behind the Iron Curtain, and what do they see? Oh my God, these grocery stores are filled with vegetables, and these all the buildings are are beautiful and renovated. I feel like now, if I go to some Asian cities, I sometimes have like, oh my, to to back up a little bit, like before they went to the West, they thought this is the best shit ever. Like, hey,
Mhm.
this communist utopia. But when they go, they realize. So I encourage you to go to these third world countries now. What is happening there, and realizing, like, I mean, Chinese cities are living in a science fiction utopia, something like. I mean, we are now the backwards Soviet Union, and like kind of that's really so. I that's sad. I still think on our like we have very like we have great things here that are better. I think we have the moral upper ground. I like we have our values, the democratic values, the individualistic values that we need to always be at the core and never compromise those. That's what not what I'm saying, but I'm saying that we don't like we still need to find a kind of balancing act here, how we let our companies fly. Uh, but yeah, it's a harder question, and maybe a
Yeah,
question for politicians and political scientists.
yeah. That's kind of. I mean, that's kind of a tricky topic, but of course, it pertains to the industry that you're in, right? It kind of seems to me that I just wonder. It kind of seems to me that the European Union it's focused a lot on virtual signaling. Sort of giving the image that we're doing good, but in reality, it's just preventing innovation, it's preventing growth, and well, that's why we see like all these companies maybe going to other countries, right?
Yeah, and that we are. My opinion on the EU that we would need more European Union, not less. I mean, integration of the European Union. There's now this backlash of nationalist movements all around Europe, and actually, like because the whole problem is this single market is not working.
Hmm.
Uh, uh, and we got to work with the tools we have, and we are a Finnish company and we are operating in Europe, but many companies are flipping their structures, doing the Delaware flip and establishing their companies to the US. Uh, we have a brain drain going on and so forth. So uh, these are not like issues we need to overlook. And I think like this nationalist backlash, it actually kind of is making things worse. So, so I cannot help but sometimes be a little bit pessimistic where the whole economy is going at Europe.
Yeah. Do you see some of the same issues present in Finland as well, of regulation and?
Well, Finland is a whole nother story again. Like our economic growth is has stagnated for a very long time, and we are such a small market also that we have very small capital markets here. We are basically an island, which puts also uh, hurdles for us. Uh, we speak the small language. Uh, we have pros as well, though we have highly educated people here. But
Yeah.
what I think is like our main problem is the risk appetite. We have had things so good for so long time, that you don't really have the drive, the passion, uh,
Mm,
to do and take risks. Like even Estonia, like kind of you go there and there's this kind of a atmosphere of we want to show to the world we were so long behind the Iron Curtain, and now we are again independent, and because things weren't that good, like people born in the 90s really didn't have all the stuff, the material stuff, so they really have this drive to make it. But here, everybody has everything they need. Uh, there's kind of this kind of a golden handcuffs, you know,
mm,
of
yeah.
taking the salary and being middle class. And I don't know, like it's nothing. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I mean, that's like everybody on their like whatever life choices you want to make individually, it's your life choice. But I mean, as a society now, like as an aggregate, there's not enough people willing to take the risks, willing to make money. That's not wrong thing to say. I want to
No,
make
absolutely
money.
not.
I want to do big. That's not kind of ingrained in our culture here. And I think that's the main problem here. It's actually cultural problem than necessarily like there's some law that we changed or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, as an outsider, living in Finland now for almost 5 years, uh, I've looked into the history, and it kind of seems to me that it wasn't always like this. There's the whole concept of sisu, which I love, by the way. And I've had these conversations, and asked, is that still present? And some of the conversations, like, it used to be. It kind of seems that, and I think it kind of applies for any culture. Anytime you go through a crisis as a society or as a culture,
Mm.
it sort of like resets the mentality of people, to sort of push and drive for growth, right? And at some point, that was present here in Finland, right? I mean, after the Second World War, in the 70s, it wasn't in the best place, but somehow you managed to get to the place where we are now. Do you think a lot of the talk of being the happiest country in the world sort of also sets limitations as to, okay, we made it to the top, we don't need to do more?
Yeah, that's a there's two parts of your question here. Like the first is exactly that like yes, we I think we used to. Obviously, I wasn't there living it, but but I was born in the 80s and I lived through the Lama, what we call, so the Great Depression of Finland in the
Yeah.
90s. And I come from a quite humble background, raised by a single mom. But again, everything is relative. I lived in Finland, so even us, we always had food on the table. I didn't have the branded sneakers or Lacoste T-shirt, but I always had everything like basic needs. Uh, but I think it's exactly this Estonia thing that I like. We had the similar stuff going on after the war. Like we were agrarian society, and now we kind of industrialized quite late. And like we had this Thisu mentality and perkele and let's do it that the Estonians now have. Uh,
Hmm.
but then, like this happiness things, there might be something into it that we don't have, like the collective, like kind of uh, thinking of like maybe I could sacrifice something maybe on my
Mhm.
taxations or something like that or my own privileges for the sake of the common good because we want to show
Hmm.
to the world. But when it comes to the happiness, I don't know, like I think the why we are happy actually here, why the studies are so, are that it's not about the absolute amount of why that there are so many happy people, but it's the lack of extreme kind of unhappiness.
Challenges.
That's, yeah. So that's why we are happy because like kind of everybody has the food on the table. Like on average, you can buy meat every day, even if you're unemployed. Like, I mean, that's how it is. If you're not like spending your money on drugs or alcohol, you can actually eat meat every day. Like, I mean, what kind of a utopia we live in if we look at the whole history of the humanity? Like
Yeah,
you just sit at home and you don't need to hunt and gather. You don't need to like you get this abundance. You live in a heated house, and you have clothes on, and everything is taken care of. You don't die of hunger or cold here. You don't have the
yeah,
extreme. So that's why I think we are like kind of we lack the extreme unhappiness. That's why we are the
yeah,
happiest. Not necessarily that's why we are always like so surprised. Why are we the happiest country in the world? Because we are quite like somber headed. But I think because of the questionnaire, nobody answers, I'm life sucks. I want to kill myself. Everybody's, yeah, I'm relatively okay. Like, everybody's like, yeah, I'm all right. Like, like, yeah, things could be better, but it doesn't suck.
yeah, yeah. I couldn't agree more. Yeah. Do you have kids?
Yes, I have a daughter.
Do you also think about those things about how you're raising your daughter in the midst of, having all this comfort? Are those some of the things that you keep in mind whenever you're raising your kids?
I've actually had this conversation with my wife. I'm like kind of sometimes I'm ranting how the Finnish economy has been stagnated for so long time, and I'm not thinking my kid, I'm thinking my grandkids. And if you
Hmm.
think of historically why we were so backwards, it's like we are a border nation far, far away on the northeast, and like where I have the abundance been in Europe, and where is all the it's a little bit to the south,
Yeah.
west, like always been like that. So I've been thinking like, hey, what if we should move away from here? Not necessarily for our kid, but I'm seeing like if we don't do anything, like the children of my child, they will be living in a country that's totally different looking like now. We don't have the what I just told you. We don't have the shelter and the food on the table. I think there's a risk there. I mean, we become we are the if you're from Eastern Europe, don't get offended, but like what Eastern Europe used to be, we are now that. Like we are
Hmm.
becoming that. Our salaries are the Eastern European level. For instance, we are in a salary gap. Like nobody has any money. You go to the streets of cities in Eastern Europe, and you just look around. Again, it's like similar. Like if you haven't been there for a while, go because you kind of oh shit, what is going on here? I thought we were doing great. Like it's not anymore like that. Like
Hmm.
I think we should wake up where we are. It's funny this podcast goes to like tangents on this, but I like it that we are talking more about than hardcore business.
Yeah, well, I think it's important, just like you, I have kids myself, and I'm from Mexico. So I grew up with a lot of hardships. And I'll be honest, I like Finland. I think it has amazing things. Uh, it also lacks some things. And I found myself in certain times where I've gotten too comfortable with certain things. You know what I mean? To the point where, like, well, maybe I'm gonna go jump in the ice cold lake so I can feel some kind of discomfort. Because it's very easy. I mean, I didn't realize how easy it was to become very comfortable. I mean, I grew up in Mexico, I grew up in the US, I've seen different cultures. I've seen so many different things, and I've been able to find some kind of success to build a comfortable life, right? Which is what we're looking for. But I do think as well that if I think of my kids, like, okay, I will give them all the opportunities, or I will help them create all the opportunities that they can handle, but they gotta do the work. So I do have this kinds of questions. So when I talk to people like you, it's okay. Now you're in a different position where you can obviously give your kid everything they could want, right? So it's like, okay, how are you going to manage those things, you know? But yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, I that's absolutely true. There has been some studies made on this, like how uh, there's one like quite often people settle, for instance, when they succeed better than their parents. Quite often, that's
Yeah.
like their benchmark. So, and a lot of the times, it's like if you're a guy, it's your father. If you're doing better than your father, you kind of think that you made it. So it's uh, then there is a little bit wider. But it's like again, you want to show to your father that you want to make him proud, and but it's also your benchmark that uh, of success, like your experience, what was like. Uh, but then also, if you look at successful entrepreneurs, uh, one big theme that is there is some kind of a hardship chip on their shoulder, that they don't get internal motivation. They have some kind of external motivation of showing to the world. It is a little bit of a theme that I talked earlier. As a nation, we should have that motivation to show to the world, but also on the individual level, showing to the world, like, let's say you were bullied at school. There's so many stories of successful entrepreneurs being bullied at school because they want to show to the bullies.
Hmm.
There is overrepresentation in Silicon Valley on entrepreneurs from immigrant backgrounds. They want to show they had hardships. They want to show to the world. Uh, there's some kind of this kind of a drive that they aren't internally like complicit, and it's
Hmm.
exactly this golden handcuffs. I sometimes like kind of hope or dream that I would have that internal complicity myself, that I would be happy about the situation. But I kind of am at the point that I'm already 40 years old, and I can compartmentalize something. So myself, I think I'm totally content on my kind of my friendships, my family, this type of stuff. And there I don't seek like I need to do better. I'm totally content on like whatever material stuff I have, houses, like this kind of own person. Like that's you should strive to be Zen. You should strive to be stoic. But then all of this kind of I'm not content with it. I drive that energy to the business, because
Hmm.
in business you never should be happy about where you are. Videobot is doing great. If you look at the statistics, our revenue growth, how much funding, all of these, we are doing great. But I think we are doing shit. Like because that's the driver. You need to relentlessly, aggressively find the levers and do better every day. So be content on your personal life, but treat your business. And if you are like me, I had this background of meager beginnings. Take that kind of internal drive, take it to the business. Like kind of if you're angry or whatever, you want to show to the world, drive that energy
Yeah.
there.
Do something about it, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What would be some pieces of, I mean, given all these topics that we have talked about, given the hurdles that society is putting onto, well, now also onto young people, what would be one piece of advice that you would give to the younger generations to help us thrive as a society?
Start doing as early as possible and don't be afraid of failing. I guess like that. I I spend a lot of time studying. Like I did the kind of the university pathway, and uh, in retrospect, I yes, it gave me tools. It developed my brain, but uh, I think if if I if I would say to my daughter, let's say, yes, I would probably say go to a university. It would be great, but during your studies, establish an e-commerce store. You
Hmm.
know, bankrupt it. Like, I mean, like try establishing that company or whatever, take risks and fail because you don't yet have all the burdens. You don't have the family and the golden retriever. You can take risks. And because you haven't yet reached that, like the level of comfort, like it's when you're 40, it's really hard to go, that, we would move into a smaller apartment, let's say. It's very hard once you get, but when
Yeah.
you're young, you can eat noodles for months on end. Like you don't care. And you're not responsible for your kids, and you don't need to think this kind of a safety on board. So start taking risks early, and fail. Don't be afraid of it.
Beautiful. Elia News, everybody. Elia, where can people keep up with your work?
I'm very active on all social medias. Basically, most active I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram. So you can find me Elia Elenius, my name. Just insert there. Happy to connect. Follow around. I usually follow back if you have interesting content. And the best way to reach me if you actually want to discuss with me is actually LinkedIn DMs. That's the best way. I appreciate salespeople, but I get on average 5 calls per hour. I cannot answer them. Sorry.
Great. Well, Elia, this has been an absolute pleasure learning about everything what you do and a little bit of your personal life as well. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Hey, thank you, Dan. It was a pleasure being here.
Absolutely. All right, then. Bye, everybody.